was filming a documentary in Texas. We were nervous. We rented it out because we didn't want people in the room to hear a lot of what we had to say. What happened was this chief officer of the location, he hears what we got to say about aliens. We might get kicked out of this place. They were interviewing me and I'm telling my stories. And he comes to me and says, Chris, is this true or are you just doing a sci-fi? I said, it's true, my friend. He goes, okay. And he walked away. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to work out. He comes back, he's sitting there listening to everything I have to say. And later in the day, he comes back and he's like, I have something I want you to know. He said, I've been a pilot for 40 years. We have employees that are living on other planets.
If you didn't know, where's my camera? I'm New Earth Eden. So glad to be here with you today. Chris O'Connor in Hawaii from California. How are you doing today? So glad to have you.
Well, I'm absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for asking me here to be with you today.
Oh,
I was looking forward to it. So, yay.
oh, hot tickety. Let me read your bio, and I'm going to start with two what I think really good questions. Chris O'Connor, veteran of the 20 and back secret space program, and you're the first person I've had on the show talking about the secret space program. So we're really going to go into that. It's all about disclosure. Chris served 60 years on an alternative timeline in the secret space program, which we're going to refer to as SSP from this point on, known as part of the 20 and back program. This refers to a covert space initiative in which participants serve 20-year terms in off-world operations before being age regressed or removed into a clone of the appropriate age and returned to Earth, often with their memory suppressed. So if that doesn't captivate you, let's continue. From the age of 2, Chris recalls being taken into a covert program linked to the SSP, serving 20 years on Earth before spending 40 more years living and working on Mimas. Am I saying that correctly?
Mhm.
Okay, an eighth density space station said to be overseen by the Confederation of Planets, where he lived among advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. A veteran of talk show circuit, Chris has shared his story on podcast conferences and community platforms dedicated to UFO research, spiritual waking, and advanced technologies. Chris, my first question that I ask all my guests is, and you have a really good handle on densities and dimensions, so I think this is a really good one to ask you. What do you think the new Earth is going to be like?
Well, firstly, the new Earth will be in full effect in, I'm guessing, about 80, 90 years at the most. But it's a transition. So the new Earth, um, people cannot incarnate on Earth so much right now that come in on a negative trajectory, meaning they're not here to be of service to others, they're here to be of service to self. The most of those souls being born are no longer that type. They're not service to self, although they're still here. So, once those folks kind of like live out their life and move on, the only ones reincarnating now, coming back to Earth, are the positive souls.
Uh,
So, firstly, that's the base. And then when you have a base of people that are all, working to understand and get along and love one another in spirituality and technology, then you have a world itself can't help but change, because we're not looking at, the way things have been with so much contention and so much kind of hatred,
yeah.
in the planet. That'll all be gone. I'm not saying we won't have challenges because we will, but not in the way we understand it. So I was raised fundamentalist Christian, and we always knew the new earth was halfway from here to heaven. So it's still a really good place. I don't think heaven is what we think it is. It's our own personal thing, and we have a soul family that we work with, and that's who we go to when we leave the planet. But it's a much, much better place. So the new earth, to me is a much more beautiful, um, it could be a metropolis for sure. And then we will also have a lot of other races since we've gotten rid of all of our, well, not all, but we've gotten rid of most of our aggression and we're not warring with one another any longer, then they'll come in and share their wisdom and love and spirituality. And we all believe in the same God. So, you know, that's an amazing thing is that source, I refer to it source because most other races refer to God as source, but we're speaking of the same scenario. So it's going to be much more loving, kind, and generous place.
So when you think about 80 to 90 years for it being in full effect, knowing that I believe we are on that way right now, especially those of us who are more open to it, ready for it. What what do you think it's gonna look like? Because I had a gentleman on my show, Gene Decode, who talked about like the things that you would just see up in the sky and just like how otherworldly it may be. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the one thing that the Confederation of Planets does allow, because they're nobody's allowed to really visit yet, not physically.
Hmm.
So the one thing they will allow is lights in the sky. People see things from a distance. That doesn't really break now because of it. It's been happening for so long now. It doesn't break any non-interference, contracts, meaning that a race isn't allowed to come without permission from the Confederation of Planets, which is at Mimas. And they're like, well, you can show all the lights you want for the most part, but you can't land. They're not ready for that.
Right. Do
Yeah.
you like? I also think that our lifespans are going to increase. What do you think about that?
Our lifespans used to be six, 800,000 years. But our lifetimes were shortened because each time we come back, we forget all the past lives. And what that does, it sounds kind of cruel, but it's a service to us, our soul. Because the only reason to incarnate, the only reason to have these experiences is for the betterment of our eternal soul. So if we have one really long lifetime, what happens is we get stuck in our ways often,
Yeah.
and we're not open to change and new information because we remember this happened, that happened. We're dragging all that baggage with us. Even if you try, you can't help but drag something with you, right?
Yeah.
It's just that's the human nature, and that's the point. So what they did was they shortened our lifespan so that we could have multiple lives, forgetting each life that we just had. And that gives us a brand new, genuine, 100% full free will experience. And that evolves the soul. It's catalyst for change.
Now that we're evolving, do you feel that our lifespan will increase? And forgive me if I missed your answer to that. And you might have said it.
Yeah. Forgive me, I didn't say it.
Oh,
I
okay,
got
got it.
distracted.
There you go. All right. So,
Yes.
are they gonna increase now that it is becoming? I don't want to say it, but more of a like a beautiful place where we want to be versus oh my God, we're doing this karma again and we're having all these lessons and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. Once we've moved through that phase, and that's part of the change over the next, few decades, is that we just simply have to let go of our old concepts, let go of our old understandings. And it doesn't mean, I totally understand this is frightening for people to let go of what they've been taught their whole life.
Ooh,
I understand that, but it's important to challenge ourselves into understanding certain things or new things because then
mhm,
that broadens our thinking and our mind and we learn so much. The more I've learned over the years, the more hope I have for humanity,
mhm.
the more love I feel from the universe and from God and from source, the more connected I become because I begin to understand the full concept that we were never meant to be controlled in the way we are now.
Yeah.
So, what we just have to do our best to let go of the aggression and realize that we are all one. I know that's hard to understand, but we are all the same being, and our journey is about reunifying with that being, that source. Every intelligent race out there is on the same journey. So then when I say we all believe in the same God, I mean we all believe in the same God. I don't care
So,
if they're alien or not, they believe in it.
yeah.
Whether they're good or bad, they still believe in it. It's the whole thing.
Okay. And talking about this knowledge from my perspective is also so liberating. So one of the things you talked about when I saw you in Long Island was the reaction that you get from people, because I've been doing the show for 4 years, knowing, I always learn new things, but I'm also like, okay, Chris, let this go. Yeah, there are so many things. Like I had Galactic walking on my show. It's just what we've been taught in terms of what happens on this earth and what exists on this earth is so not true. So talk about the reactions that you typically get, and knowing that there was one person when I saw you that was just like, what? And then some of us were like, yeah, sure. So is it a mixture, and being as brave as you are to really come out and talk about all of this? How's that journey been for you?
It can be an emotional journey. It can be
Yeah.
a fairly difficult journey, but that's what I signed up for. Yes, I know who you're referring to about who was freaking out during my talk. Lovely lady. I really like her actually. But she told me right after I came down, I said, "Are you sure you're okay?" Because she was not prepared for what I had to say. And she says, "I think you've had a complete psychotic break."
What?
And I'm like,
Really?
and my initial response was, "What?" She goes, "Oh, never mind."
Oh
But
my
we
gosh.
became friends after that because she's like, I spoke to my guidance and while I was on stage, in fact, and I said, "Is she going to be okay?" Because I'm
Yeah.
watching this reaction of this lady in the front row. And guidance is, this is her opportunity,
Yeah.
and
You
I'm like,
planted a seed.
okay, okay. I
Right.
still feel bad. She's freaking out.
Right.
But
And she was there talking about child trafficking, correct?
yes, yes, yes. Which is not an easy thing to hear either.
Right.
But for the most part, I chose this mission of disclosure and dissemination of information. And like 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago now, I was in I was asleep in a dream. The same man that has come to me my entire life in my dreams came right up, and I always remember these as if I'm there. And he comes up to me and he says, "Things are going to get very difficult for you in the near future because I don't like being in front of the camera. I don't like exposing myself that way." He says, "This is going to get to be a real challenge for you." And they're like, "So what we're going to do, this is totally up to you." They said, "What we're going to do is we can take you out of your body right now and you can go into stasis, and then someone will come in and replace you and finish your mission."
Mm.
I was offended.
Like, I've
I
done
was
this
like,
so far. Come on.
"Hello,
Yeah.
no."
Yeah.
Absolutely not. No, but they knew I was going to say no, but it stimulated something in me, and it solidified my choice.
Okay.
And so I'm really glad they did that, but I'm like, how dare you ask me that question?
Yeah. After all this time. All right. I am going to ask this question, but then we're going to go straight into the secret space program and how you remembered and what you used to do. Because I watched you on one podcast and thought this is really great before we kick it off even more. So you were privileged to be with over, I think, 1,000 ET races. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you start off by telling us a race that you just loved, and then a race that was a little more difficult either to see, knowing that everything looks speaks differently. It's just completely not what we would expect. All right, how about that?
Okay. There's a couple of races that are both independently very different from one another.
Yeah.
One of them is the Syrian envoy, the Syrian race, and the other is Andromedan Arcturian hybrid. So they came
Mm.
together many years ago, and created a third species. It's really hard. The Syrians are not as loving and kind. They're just kind of stoic, but they're there, they're stable, they're like you could count on them, right? And the Arcturians they're super intelligent. They do a lot of medical work, they do a lot of research, and they're super intelligent people, but they look so very different, but they have stunning eyes. It's like you look into their eyes, they're quite small, but you can look into them, and it looks as if you're looking at gases in space, all these colors just moving and changing and sparkling. I would just be mesmerized, and they would
Wow.
just be like so patient with me because I'd just be like looking at their eyes, not even hearing what anybody said. And they're like, "Are you down?"
Well, it's like it
Are you
seems like
down,
there's a
John?
cosmos in their eyes.
Yes.
Like, yeah, like a galaxy. All right.
Yeah. And you can't help but be mesmerized by it. It's so beautiful. And as
Yeah.
their emotions change, and this is one thing I learned is if I was being a little too irritating, their emotions, their eyes would turn a little darker color, like red and some like brownish. And oh wait, okay, yeah, they're not happy right now. So,
Whoa. All
but
right.
yeah, I love
Interesting.
both of those two races. I wouldn't want to really choose, but I was much closer to the Arcturian race than the Syrian.
All right.
Uh,
What would you say is the most odd? I don't know if that's quite or most spectacular or just, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is really in front of my face.
No, it's constant. I mean, like, I don't care what you learn, there's more to learn, and there's more
Wow.
interesting entities. I
I want to take a break from the show, take a little breather, and ask you, how are you feeling about the fiat dollar today? Any government issued currency? Well, personally, I'm not feeling all that great about it. And knowing that we are still transversing the 3D to the 5D, we're not in the new earth yet. So, what I am doing on my own is trying to move away as much as I can and investing and putting my dollar in precious metals. I'm going to recommend watching episode 188 with Miles Franklin, precious metal experts. The reason I had them on was I had moved my money from a standard IRA, which is great because I don't really want to invest with companies that I feel do not have heart, and moved it into a gold IRA. And it turns out the company that I had gone to was not all that reputable. So was connected with Miles Franklin. Kevin helped me move everything out and also didn't say, well, now you need to come to Miles Franklin. They're doing this because they have integrity and they have seen how many people have been damaged with this process. So, can I recommend them because I had personal experience? Yeah. So, if this has any sort of resonance to you, and I would also encourage having precious metals in your home as well. So, episode 188. And then, if you want to reach out to them, which this is below as well, info@milesfranklin.com. And please place in the subject line, I sent them to you. Love that. Thank you. All right, let's go back to the juicy show.
I don't care what you learn, there's more to learn, and there's more
Wow.
interesting entities. I've noticed, there were these beings that they look very much human, and they have very
Yeah.
loose clothing, but they're like 20 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
You know, but you don't really want to interact with them. Um, they're a little harsher with their responses, and you don't want to get stepped on one because they would do it without thinking about it. It's just like it's not that they're evil, it's just like, "Ooh, who are you?" It's like
Yeah.
squashing a bug.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of keep your distance from some of them, like some of the reptilian races, you keep your distance from, you don't go knocking on their door, especially at dinner time, because you might be the the guest.
Or the
Uh-huh.
dinner, the guest, the one that's eaten.
Yeah.
Oh
So you
man.
just don't push them, right? You just don't challenge it. There are others. There's this one race that I'm really intrigued by. I
Yeah.
don't remember too much about them, but I know exactly what they look like. And they look like egg-shaped. And they're
Oh,
physical, uh, but they can lift their arms. Like, you know how certain crabs can kind of come together and they create this shield, this
yeah.
armor. They do the same thing. But then they wear this like nude colored rubber suit,
Okay.
which makes it all kind of strange.
Yeah.
Um, too much about them. I just remember what they look like, and that they can kind of like for protection, just bring their head down and their arms in and their legs in, and then they have this like shield of protection. Closest thing I could say is a crab. So they're fascinating, of course. So I could go on for a long time describing different races, but
Oh my gosh.
you
That, okay. Tell me how this came to be, how you realized it. Yeah, just really go into the SSP and your role and the cloning and yeah, just tell us everything.
okay. Firstly, it wasn't random that I was placed into the program. I agreed to do it before I ever was born in 1968.
Mhm.
It was a desire that I had to work on Mimas with the Confederation of Planets, uh, because they're only here for Earth. They're only here to help us, but they have to stay away until we're ready for their visitation.
Mhm.
So they need envoys. They need people in the middle. Like me. I'm just a voice right now. There's real no real. I don't have a video of it. You're not allowed to bring anything like that with you. I did
Yeah.
bring an object, but that's another story.
Okay.
Um, so essentially, what happens is if you come and visit, okay, let's back up a little bit. When your race, whatever race you are on whatever planet you're from, when your race evolves enough to leave the planet and interact with other races, there's sort of an unwritten galactic rule, universal really, rule that you go to help another developing race. It's
Mm.
just what you do.
Mhm.
We had it happen to us. We turned them into gods, especially throughout Egypt.
Yep.
So they're like, you guys are killing people in our name. No, we're out, and so that was the one attempt Confederation of Planets allowed. And then they're like, not until they're ready.
Mhm.
So we're the ones that are keeping them away. Unfortunately, there's a couple negative races. There's really not that many, but they just make a big noise, as we all know, tends to happen in this world.
Mhm.
They can come, but they don't really follow the rule of non-interference. So the way around the rule of non-interference, and the reason I made an agreement with United States military factions between the Navy and the Air Force. I think now we call it Space Force, but I made an agreement before I was ever born. That this is what I want.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because I couldn't just come in and pop into the planet. It's against the rules right now. What you can do is become born into the race. So I could join the incarnation cycle and enter the human race. And now I'm considered a human being because I am, right? You see it.
Yeah. All right. I'm
Uh,
thinking about that. Please proceed.
yeah. And so now any memories you can bring in, connection you can make to your past lives, and that becomes the journey. Any information you share is free will. So you are a member of the race and you can tell them whatever you want, but you can't come and land here. You have to go through the incarnation cycle, but there's a risk.
Mm.
Many people do that. I'm hardly, I mean, I'm going to guess there's like maybe close to half of the whole population on the planet are not from Earth, but
Mhm.
they're here to help.
Okay.
Some are here to, control, but they're, it's an individual thing. So basically, we come down, we enter the incarnation cycle and we try to share our beliefs and understandings and anything that we remember. That's why it's so important to do inner work
Yeah.
and to look into your own soul and to begin telling the truth you know to be true, whether however crazy it sounds. It doesn't matter, because I tell people you don't have to believe anything. I say
Right.
I'm not attached to that at all. I only ask that you open your mind, you hear what I have to say, you put it up on a shelf, and you just leave it there.
Yeah.
Someday it might serve you, and that's my goal. You don't have to believe anything. It's fine. I'm going to go sleep tonight and be just as happy as I was today.
Okay. So when you entered that cycle, was your kind of like a liaison for Earth and these other races?
Well, you mean the incarnation cycle or?
Yes. When you took your say your job,
Mhm.
what was your job specifically?
My job was to work as a liaison
Okay.
representing Earth. I couldn't do that without being a member of the human race, the
Yes.
Earth human race, because there's a human race that's not from Earth.
Oh my
There's a
gracious.
distinction. They look exactly the same as us, but they're just not from here. Yeah, and so you can represent your race, but you have to be born into it.
Into that
That's
race.
kind of the caveat I was talking about.
Okay. So did you get training in this, or did you just knew what to do, or what? How did that come to bear?
Well, once I was taken at 2 years old, I was age advanced through a chemical process of rapidly growing tissue. So I grew from about 2 years old to about mid 20s
Okay, talk about
in about
growing
a month.
pains. Oh my gosh, what was that like?
Well, it was horrifying. It's horrifying, but it's the process. And I wasn't conscious after the first few minutes, and I wasn't conscious until after they took me out of a tank. They drowned me in a pink solution, like a gel, sort of lavendery pink looking. But it's a solution that's grown based on the DNA of the individual they're placing in it, and it's highly oxygenated, so you're drowned in it, and then you remain in it. Now, for the body to grow, equally internally and externally, they had to place a bunch of needles all throughout my body. So I was suspended in a tube as a 2-year-old with needles, all around. And
Hmm.
they drowned me in it. And I remember the whole process. It was quite confusing and terrifying. But then after the first couple of minutes, I don't remember anything. It wasn't painful because this gel was like anesthetizing, so it wasn't like it was painful. A lot of pressure, physical, a lot of emotional problems, a lot of an emotional trauma. Because at 2 years old, I didn't remember I agreed to do this. I was born, right? And we
Right.
forget, the veil of forgetting. So it
Can
would
I
take
say
me
this,
years.
Chris? I'm constantly amazed at the movie The Matrix, how many points of reality, like Neo was on one point in this clear or in this pink kind of gel when he emerged from the pod and had, I think, all these needles in him as well. So I'm just, again, just the comparison of that and so much of the truth in that movie. Yeah. Do you have any comment on that?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I never remembered that about the Matrix. I remember they were in, these tubes of gel. It was a little different with me. I was in
Yeah.
an acrylic tube. So I never quite related the two because it looked so different, right? But,
Yeah.
dramatized for film and it was beautiful shots, really, Neo coming out. But now that you said it the way you said it, I'm like, ooh, that was really similar.
Yeah, and it was pinky and jelly. What an experience. And not you agree to it, but not remembering and just this, okay, go on.
So after that, I guess about a month, 4 or 5 weeks, then by that time, they had moved me into a large tank so that my growing body could accommodate it. And then they just drained the tank and brought me out. So for like 2 days, I was like, now a 25-ish year old man with a
Jeez.
two-year-old brain. Talk about traumatizing. I
Yeah.
remember it. They were not compassionate. They
Really?
weren't unkind, but they weren't like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay," da da. They were like, whatever,
Just get over it. This is what you
let's
agreed
get
to
over
do.
it.
Come on, let's do it.
And I remember that aspect, which is kind of a weird aspect to remember, but emotions are what we remember most from
Hmm.
these scenarios. And so for a couple of days, they couldn't do anything except for just basically strap me down to a bed for a couple of days while my new nervous system, newly grown nervous system adjusted to the size of the body and
Hmm.
everything else. It takes a couple of days. And then they unlocked my memories, which is a whole different story, but they have the
Whoa.
technology to do that. What it is, it's a frequency scrambling and unscrambling
Hmm.
process. And so they know the frequencies to begin and end, and that's a time because time's a wave, and each peak and trough, there's a time signature for each one, and so they can just punch that into the computer and then push this little button, and your memories are unlocked. That happens naturally when we leave the physical body, but they can do it artificially as well.
So were
So
these human beings that were helping you through this
yes,
process? Okay.
yes, yes.
Ooh.
So after they unlocked my memories, I began. It's not like boom, everything's there. I mean, some things are like that, but for the most part, it's this process of you remember one thing and then it begins to unpack another memory, and then that begins to, and it's usually flashes. For me, it's visual flashes. It's just things I can see, but I don't have a context for it. So over time, those memories kind of come together, and then the story, kind of makes sense. And then plus later, I went, they give you a briefing and they tell you everything that happened, and then you're like, oh yeah, well that makes sense.
Can I ask you, were the memories from all of your lives or just your memory that, oh, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do? This is what I'm here for?
Mostly the agreements, but not it's not restricted to that at
Jeez.
all. Because there's certain things I needed to remember, like I was fully telekinetic, I was fully empathic, I was fully psychic. I mean, we all are, we just don't remember. And so those things began to come in. So then I went through some training to kind of hone those skills and remember how to use them. And then, of course, took months and months. And then for the first 20 years, I was mostly in underground bases and in desert bases. And I was just security guard because the agreement was if the U.S. agreed to do this process with me and be in control of it, keep me safe and whatever, then I would give them 20 years of service. But after 20 years, you have to move me via your ships to Saturn's moon, Mimas. And so that was the agreement we made, and I stayed there for 40 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. But I was in stasis a lot because I wasn't the only one.
Hmm.
There were several of us that had all these similar abilities, because most other races they don't communicate like you and I are right now. We're not
Right.
speaking verbally and they're not hearing us, except for in their minds. They're very telepathic, and it's just a whole long conversation that you could sit down with somebody for 2 hours and have in a second. You know everything they want you to know, and they know everything you want them to know. And so then you kind of go on your way.
Hmm.
It's much more efficient. It's a lot less personal. So I found that kind of a little bit harder to adjust to. But for the most part, say if I'm on duty, they would only ever be one or two of us that had these skills on duty at a time, uh, and the rest of them were in like stasis chambers. And the reason for that is that as much as we try, humans currently are still fairly easy to manipulate. We're fairly easy they can get into our brains quite easily because they've been around for hundreds of thousands or millions of more years than we have.
Hmm.
and they know how to do it. So if they wanted to pull, when it comes to countries working together in a coalition, there are secrets you have to keep. There just are.
Yeah.
Good or bad, there are secrets. And when these telepathic people all have the ability to know what those secrets are, they put you in stasis so that they no another race can't come in and scan your mind without your knowledge and pull that information out.
Okay, so Chris, you being a liaison, what does that mean exactly?
I think a liaison and a like an ambassador, pretty much the same thing. We as humans, um, we represent Earth as a whole, not individually and not countries. So there is an Earth embassy on Mimas. It's large, gorgeous. It's absolutely wonderful. There's a redwood forest attached to it
Oh,
next door.
shucks. One of my favorite places.
Oh God, yeah. There are Sasquatch that live there, and human beings, and a couple other little races. But that's a whole different thing to explain. But so anybody that represents Earth is in this little location, and
Yeah.
it's pretty big. It's not little, but it's a large embassy. So that's where we all stayed. That's where there are at times hundreds and even thousands of Earth humans that are service living there at any one given time. But they all sign either NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, or their memories are erased so that they can't share the information. So if they look at you as a liability, they're going to erase your memory. They're just no question. Which I was constantly a liability.
Yeah, I want to know about how you, and we'll go into this in a second, but how you came to remember all these memories, how you're talking about it now. I also want to know why it's still, well, I know why it's still a secret. And then I think I want to ask about the dark forces that are here. Yet go on. All these questions are just coming into my head.
I had decided, I loved my job. I was here for
Yeah.
that. They knew I wasn't really a, official Earth human, but they made the agreements and all of that. So I kept saying, "You guys know I'm going to remember," and they're like, "No,
Mm.
you're not." I was, I mean, I look back through my whole life. I'm a loving, kind, accepting, generous, non-judgmental person, but I have opinions,
Good for you. That's great.
and I'm going to share them if I'm asked, especially. But for the most part, I would say I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
There's no question. I'm going to remember. No, you're not. No, like, and I know what they meant was they're going to just like scramble my brain as much as possible. I'm still going to remember. And part of the reason is I mentioned the Syrian envoys. They helped me remember because none of these other
Whoa.
races are happy that we don't know they exist. They're like, your governments need to get their act together. You guys are basically kind of on a prison planet in a lot of ways. And we don't like that at all, So you guys got to get your act together. And that's what we're doing right now on Earth.
Yes. Chris, you are at this point still kind of an ambassador in a
Hmm.
sense.
Well, I haven't stopped talking yet.
You are. All right, how did you remember how old were you again when you came back into I think you were, if I have this right, at some point you were placed back into your young body when you came back to Earth. Was that correct?
Well, no. The original 2-year-old body, the one I was born into through
Yeah.
my mother, um, was age advanced to like mid 20s. Okay, that
Okay.
one, 20 years later, it was shot and killed. So I was moved to another mid
Mm.
20s-ish copy. And then I continued my experiences. Then I was moved again about 20 years later, and that was by request. It was vanity. Um,
Okay,
I'm
there you
like, you
go.
want me to sign up for a third 20 years? Okay, I want a new body.
I want it to look like this. I want it to weigh
I mean,
150 pounds. I want to be really muscular. I want to
yeah,
have
it's
really
like
good
it's all
hair.
the same, right? So, and they agreed. They said, yeah, fine. It's not that hard for them to do that. So
Yeah.
they moved me into another, and then at the end of the final 20 years, the final 60-year complete mission, They had prepared a fourth body to move me into, and that was about 2 years old, at the same age I was when they took me. And then we
Right.
jumped timelines. They dropped me off in 1970,
Okay.
and that's this body right now. And it's funny because I've had injuries, I've had all these things go wrong in my life, physically,
Yeah.
accidents, whatever. I've had three separate emergency room doctors say something to the same effect. And it was basically, one of them says, "You're industrial strength. We don't know how you survive that." And I'm like, "Well, I do, but I'm not telling you because you put me in the psych ward next." So.
Exactly. Industrial strength.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be industrial strength.
Well, you kind of, to do what you're doing now, too, you've got to be
Yeah,
really strong and really headstrong, physically strong.
yeah.
Wow. Tell me now, how did these memories come back to you? And then uh, when you talked about thousands of Earth humans helping with this, I mean, just the number of people who are involved in this secret space program, it's got to be huge.
It's tremendous. And I'm finding, Aiden, so often people coming to me and saying, "I have a story to tell you." And these are people, okay, here's an example. We're
Yeah.
just filming a documentary in Texas. We were nervous because we rented out a museum on the airport. And so we were nervous because we're like, we rented it out because we didn't want people in the room to hear a lot of what we had to say. So what happened was the CO, chief officer of the location, we were most nervous about him. We're like,
What?
"Oh goodness, if he hears what we got to say about aliens and about all this other stuff, we might get kicked out of this place." And it was a
Yeah.
beautiful location to shoot. So we're like, we didn't want that. And so he comes up to me like 2 hours, hour and a half into the interviews, because they were interviewing me and I'm telling my stories. And he comes to me and says, "Chris," he said, "is this true or are you just doing a sci-fi?" I said, "It's true, my friend. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true." He goes, "Okay." And he walked away. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but let's get a bunch of stuff on film." So we get over there. He comes back later. He's sitting there listening to everything I have to say, which made me kind of nervous, I gotta admit. And later in the day, he comes back and he's like,
Oh,
"I
I'm
got
getting
something
chills
to tell
already.
you.
Hmm.
I have something I want you to know." He said, "I've been a pilot for 40 years," and went on and on. And he says, it was either him or a friend of his that owned a company. He owned a company, but I may have gotten the two companies kind of mixed up. He
Hmm.
says, "We have employees that are living on other planets."
No
I'm like,
way.
"What?" He says, they've all been gone for a year so far, and they've all signed NDAs, and they're not allowed to speak about it. He says, "But they're contractors, and lots of them are on the moon because we're building an Earth, you know, I don't know if it's a embassy or if it's a military outpost. I'm not sure what they're building. He didn't say, I didn't ask." He said, "And they're all there. None of them have come back yet." And I'm like, he shocked me, which is not easy to do.
So yeah, why did he just felt comfortable telling you this? I'm assuming
Yeah,
he wasn't supposed to tell, but you
no.
were a safe place to go. Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what he said. He said, there's nobody I can tell this to." I'm like,
Right.
"Yeah, I get it." I said, "You're just one of so many people. So there's no way I could doubt this because I know that they're building stuff on the moon, they're building stuff on other planets, on asteroids, that's us, you and me,
Hmm.
humanity." Yeah, and I know there's another planet on the other side of the sun from us in a gravitational balance. And that's where we build our really big ships. Some of the ships that we have, or the one that I was aware of, is the size of Manhattan Island.
Oh, gracious.
I mean, how many people could you put on that?
Wow.
A lot, so. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing things. So it's what keeps me going when people come to me and they tell me their story. And
Yeah.
first of all, I love helping people and being able to hear their story because sometimes that's all they need to do. And I get it. I just agreed to come here and just blab, tell everything I know.
Okay, so how did you remember?
It's a great question. When I was first returned, you know, to the 2-year-old body and
Yeah.
sent back to 1970, there was no real long, it was like maybe a few minutes that I was gone. I was taken out of my crib
Mhm.
originally, and then I was not placed back into my crib because my mother and my aunt were looking for me because they noticed I was gone. And it turns out I was down the hall in a locked door in a closet. And my mom and my aunt were arguing about, how that happened. And so that's the only oddness to the fact I had been gone for 60 years. So of course that took some processing, later
Yeah.
on in life, but it's not, I'm far from the only one, and that's why I'm telling my story to help people realize there's so much more to life. God's so much bigger. Life is
Hmm.
so much more amazing than we have been limited in our understanding. But that's a control mechanism. So, we all say, you can't control me. I need my sovereignty. I'm like, then stop believing the old and start believing in something else, or start accepting information so that you can be on your own journey to understand what it is that life actually is, and then
Hmm.
how much love there is in this universe and in
What
this
what would you say
galaxy
to
and in
that?
our solar system.
Is it
Pardon?
is love? Is it so expansive? How would you even put that emotion and that feeling into words?
The closest thing I can do to explain it is the love of a newborn child,
Okay.
especially if it's yours.
Yeah.
There's nothing more pure and innocent, right?
Hmm.
And you can feel that. And if it's your child, it's even more amazing, right? That's the closest that I can come to explaining that when I have been in the presence of these some of these other beings, they walk into the room, and that profound love precedes them. And I just want everybody to experience even a little bit of that. So I try, I fail miserably, but
Oh,
I try to project that love,
I do too.
ahead of me, no matter where I'm going. And a lot of people respond to that. They don't know
Yeah.
what they're responding to, but
Right. Something
that's
feels
okay.
good. Something feels pure, like you said. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's almost like imagining that you have a million children that are birthed all at once and they're yours.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Okay.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
then tell me, did you remember everything at two? Were you
Mm.
regressed? How did it all come flooding back to you? What was the,
Thank you
yeah.
for keeping me on track.
Well, it's a really interesting question.
Um,
I'm wondering if you were just sitting at eating breakfast and you were like, oh my gosh, bleh, it's all just come. Yeah.
well, that's a very good question, and it kind of goes into the whole emotional journey of me trying to figure things out.
Hmm.
Some memories I remembered as a little kid because I had just come back.
Okay. Did you think they were real or did you think they were just part of your imagination?
Well, I thought they were real. I was told it's my imagination. I'm a vivid dreamer. And I'm like, okay, I'll believe that for a while. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I remember that more than I do the birthday party you threw me. So how would you justify that?
Hmm.
That those memories, right? So like, if I'm not if I can remember your name as my parents, if I can remember your name, how is it that I can remember something else just as vividly or possibly more vividly?
Hmm.
Which one is fake? One fake, or are they both the truth? And that's how I kind of came around to, like, and also being raised. strict fundamentalists.
Oh
You don't
gosh.
mention those things, because I can't tell you how many times I was prayed over in the front of the church,
In
trying
front of
to
the church, in front of
exercise.
everybody?
Oh yeah, but it didn't work.
Whoa,
It
because that
didn't
that
work.
would yeah, that would have a acclamation to make you very quiet, but you kept trudging forward. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah. I did become quiet about that, and
Yeah.
I had all these memories of past lives, and I'm like,
Jeez.
I can't share these. I can't
Yeah.
say anything. So I became very introverted, obviously,
Yeah.
but also emotional. I would break down constantly because it was such a dissension in my mind about my two realities. I didn't know how to manage it, you know. And I'm like, I know they're both real. I don't know how to explain it, but I know they're both real. And so many of those memories I carried at a very young age. And then as I went along, because I didn't shut them down, I did shut them down for a little while just because I didn't know how to process them. Once I reopened them and allowed them to come through, then they started making sense. They're stacking on each other, and I can tie this piece of the puzzle with this piece of the puzzle. Now we have a story.
All right. So why did you decide to go back? Did you feel comfortable enough like I can open these up at this point? What age were you or what was happening in your life that you decided I'm going to do this now or I'm going to look at this and figure this out?
Actually, that wasn't that long ago. It was about 20 years, maybe a little less ago. I ended up with throat cancer. And that was caused,
Oh my
in my
gosh.
belief,
Yeah, holding
by
back.
the blockage of
Yep.
communication.
Yeah.
So I went through that whole process, not fun
Oh, I
at
can imagine.
all.
Yeah.
Not fun at all. So I went through that process, and that's when I first began to experience panic attacks. My heart goes out to anybody that experiences them because they're so real and they're so profoundly difficult to
Hmm.
get through. But I did. So after I had that experience, I was physically healed and working on stuff and meditating twice a day and talking my guidance, and they're like, okay, you're ready to move on. So you have a choice. You can either have the same experience again, the cancer, and then you're going to lose a lot more. It's just we're not planning it. It's just how your body's responding.
Yeah.
It's not anybody doing it. It's me doing it
Hmm.
to get me onto my mission. And they're like, you can either experience this again and see how it goes, and you may not even survive it, or you can start telling your story.
Okay,
And I'm
then
like,
you have to tell me, Chris, were you already knowing that you came from a very conservative Christian background, but you're talking about meditation and your guides? Were these was this spirituality implanted in you to help encourage you to use your voice, or did one day you just decided to pick up meditation? Did you I'm assuming you had a proclivity to
mm.
these spiritual practices.
In my early 20s, it was extremely painful to remain in the church I was in. Just because I would sit there and I'd hear these things. I was judged without them knowing it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, my soul's lost. If what you're saying is true, there's nothing I can do
Okay, and
as a
that's
human
painful.
being, however kind, loving, and supportive I am to the whole of the fucking planet, pardon my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
No matter what I do, I'm lost.
Mhm.
That does not make sense to me. I reject that information. So basically, what happened was I had a conversation with God, and I'm like, I love you, but I gotta put you down. Or set you down. Gotta set you down because I don't know what to believe. I've
Mhm.
got to go find that information for myself. And I did. I said, you can strike me down if you want, but I said, I know you're not going to, but
Yeah.
I give you permission if you choose to do that. Of course, nothing bad happens. The only thing that really truly happened was I went from that point on. I said, I love you, but you got to stay here. I've got to search on my own. And when I started doing that, I started learning about other cultures. I started learning about other belief systems,
Mm.
and I began learning it's all the same. And that was so intriguing to me. So what it did was it allowed me to understand the whole of the planet for the most part. And I could then pick God back up and say, I understand you now. I understand that you're not judging any of us. You're allowing us our free will for experience to benefit all living intelligent beings.
Ooh.
So I'm okay being a part of that. So that I allow, and so now my closeness with God, which I refer to as source more often, is is remarkable, and I know I make source God happy.
Mm.
And that's all I needed to know. As you mentioned, my guidance are, this is my soul family. We all have one. We don't
Mm.
all hear them. We don't all acknowledge them, but you can become closer to them and you can have a communication. Like I have had times in my life where I was so profoundly lonely. I can't even describe the loneliness until I remembered about guidance and about all of what I'm speaking of now. And then once I did, I felt this connection that I'll never be alone, ever, And I'll go back and I'll be with my soul family and my friends. Some you can call them guardian angels, whatever, terminology we choose to use. These are people that are working with us on a daily basis, helping us through our mission and helping us through our evolutionary growth of the soul. And there's nothing more beautiful, I don't think.
Mm-mm. And I want to go into the neurogrowth practice in a minute. I've got two questions I might want to ask you in terms of what you can give to the audience. In terms of this being, I'm going to look off for a second, being a prison planet, one of control, hearing also understanding that, the Greys have had a hand, the reptilians. What is your perspective of that, given what you've been through and what you've seen?
Well, the reptilians came. There are there are those that want to serve self and control others because they get energetic benefit from that.
Yeah.
They control the energy that you produce.
Yes.
Then there are others that come in to be of assistance and support and give you energy to allow you to grow, which helps them grow as well. Okay. So it's a symbiotic relationship. The grays, okay, I can easily break down. Okay. Most of the grays are not biological, they're mechanical. They're enslaved by a specific race of the reptilians.
Mm.
Now, this is what people don't know.
Yeah.
The reptilians are enslaved by another race that aren't on Earth, but are hovering over it.
Wow.
And it's a race of these beings that are like really tall and they're like shadow people. Um, and they work with the interdimensional AI system. And they placed, you know, machines into the reptilians to control them. And then the reptilians did the same with the grays.
Oh my gosh. We are in a hierarchy of just craziness. All right.
It's a hierarchy, no question. Well, the negative side, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just have to understand it. Just knowing about that, it
Yeah.
just breaks a lot of the power they have.
Well, and
Yeah.
again, feeding on also negativity and any of our fears, or like that's kind of been one of the
Anger
reasons
and
we're
fear.
kept in fear is so they can have food, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So my calling to people, I guess is the best way to say it, is as you continue to raise your vibration, it's not hating that for going on. It's just knowing that it goes on and choosing to not consent, to rise, to rise above it, to accept it, to know that we've all agreed to go through this experience too. It's not that you're bad and I'm good and oh my gosh, we're battling each other. Yet in this ascension, it is about choice and what you want to be, how you want to live. If you want to live in fear and control, or if you want to be sovereign or be free. Would you add anything to that, Chris?
I don't really think so. You said it so complete,
Oh, awesome.
but it's true. It's absolutely true. It's like it's our choice. We're living the experience. We're manifesting it
Hmm.
day to day. We just have to choose it, what direction we're going to go. And that's the thing. That's what free will is. Free will is choosing, on a daily basis, moment to moment, what your choices are going to be. You going to support others, or are you going to try to control and manipulate them?
Hmm.
Which our American political system is really good at that.
No kidding. Hey, let me add, we are recording this on June 2nd, so disclosure may be out by the time this airs. I want to ask you this hopefully one final question. Steven Spielberg has gotten a pretty bad rap in the truth or awakening community. What do you think of him? And this movie, is it to disclose more truth, or again to come out as, oh, we're going to disclose things, but it's a science fiction movie, so it's not really real? What is your perception of that?
Not having seen the movie,
Yeah,
I can't really say.
that's true.
But for the most part, if it's really easy to figure this stuff out. They
Yeah,
want us to be so confused that we can't figure anything out. But
yeah.
let me tell you how easy it is to know if what you're hearing is true or lie.
And this may be a perfect new earth practice, but I also want to talk about your device as well. So let's combine both of this in there. All right, go, go, go.
Okay. Um, if the message you're hearing is doom, gloom, control, unkind, angry, any of those things, you're not getting a message from a positive person. I don't care how positive they appear to be.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that even they're a positive person, but they're giving you in that moment a negative message.
Hmm.
Anything that supports light, love, and evolution of the soul and kindness and hope, that's the messages we need to listen to.
Yeah.
So it's real easy to see the two when you look at it bifurcatedly like that.
Hmm.
It's not hard, black and white. Are
Yeah.
they doom and gloom, or are they love and hope? So if they're love and hope, go that direction. Unless you're a negative soul and or negatively oriented to control others, then you're going to want to go to the other side. So if you want to know if you're positive or negative, kind of start listening to some other people's messages and see who you're drawn to. But you can change
So
it at any
easy.
moment. It's your choice. So,
Yes. There you go. Awesome. Hey, so tell me, one of the reasons that you've decided to disclose this, which is so beautiful, is also the device that you have that, okay, okay, I'm gonna read this for a second, that was obtained by you and serving through the SSP. Okay. Do you have one with you by chance?
I do. I just reached.
Oh, yeah. And
This is the gold. Yeah, there's one of them.
okay, and for those who are only listening to us audioly, how would you describe? It's like a gosh, Chris, you need to
It's
describe
a
it.
9 inch. People call it a wand. I mean,
Okay.
that's the easiest way to kind of begin to understand it. But it's an acrylic or copper tube
Hmm.
that has 13 magnets in series in the tube itself, and then on the top of that is a 14th, which is a large round magnet. This device is the device we used in the SSP.
Hmm.
This is the device that I made an agreement. I said, if you want me to work for 20 more years, there's a few things I want: a new body, $3 million payout at the end, and to release this without you guys coming after me.
Yes, got it.
And they said, that's fine. You're not going to remember anyway. Well, little did they know. As much as I argued, they didn't listen.
And within that, have you been like, has anyone come to you and been like, you need to keep quiet or we're going to hurt you? Or, okay, you haven't had any of that experience. All right,
Not even a
awesome.
little. I mean, I've had people question me in a way that I'm like, I
Sure.
know you're coming from somebody, but
Okay.
no, this is not happening. We
All
have an
right.
agreement, and I know my contract number, so
Nice.
you know.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but what it does is it creates a magnetic field, and that magnetic field is compatible with the earth because we're not running around barefoot. We're not connecting and
Mm.
grounding to the earth because that's how our bodies heal. Because we're not doing that, we need something to help us do that. So that's what this device does. Reiki, practitioners absolutely love this because it whatever it is you're going to do, whether it's
Magnifies.
healing another or whatever, this makes it a lot easier because it gives you 10 times, 100 times more energy to do it. So it's just a tool. I don't want anybody to need this at all,
Mm.
honestly. I want us to remember the power we have in our own mind and our own soul. But until then, we need
Yeah.
tools. This
Yeah,
is
I would
one.
agree. Tools right now are great. And the same thing, eventually, we're not going to need them. But right now,
Mhm.
and I have to say, Chris, I held that when we were together in person, the energy, like when you talk about a directed energy weapon, it
Mm.
is like you can, when you hold it, you feel it completely. It is remarkable. And you said right now, in terms, you're on back order with those, correct? And
I
you
am on
make them
back order.
yourself. You make them
I
yourself.
I make every single one myself.
Jeez.
So it takes a while to get them out sometimes.
Okay.
But but I put, intention and thought into everyone. Although I do I'll do like basically assembly lines, some stuff that way just to make it
Yeah.
easier for me later. But then later when I know who's buying them and I put energy into them. So this one is 24 karat gold coated. That's just the body tends to like gold.
Hmm.
But there's another one that is not. It's nickel plated, and so it's a little less expensive
Hmm.
because of the gold. But these are the two, and you can't get them anywhere near each other, so I'll be sure not to,
Okay.
because these magnets are so strong they'll fly together
Whoa.
and explode.
All right.
But yeah, this is the device.
All right, Chris, and I had your website, so I went there. So it was the DEEMS company, yet it's lightlovemedia.com, which is
Well, Light
which
Love Media was my original website.
okay.
And I was doing a podcast, I was doing a bunch of other things. So I just hosted it on that main website, but it's the same place.
All right, awesome. This will be our my closing question to you. Do you feel, I'm gonna look off again for a second. Do you feel, oh, let me see how to word this, that currently you are fulfilling your mission in terms of disclosing information, in terms of helping people know that there is definitely more because you experienced it versus not that you've channeled or you had a lucid dream and you were actually there. Do you feel like you're doing a pretty good job?
Honestly, my mission's complete,
Whoa.
but you know how that is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've technically finished it, but I'm not finished with it. And part of that is this, I
Yeah.
put a book out. It's on Amazon right now, and
Okay,
this
let's read
tells
the
my whole
title for
story.
those who can't see it.
Man of Mimas by Chris O'Connor.
Mm.
It's on Amazon, and this is my whole story for the most part. It's an abbreviated version because trust me, this would be an encyclopedic
Ooh.
group. But yeah, it's just me standing in front of Saturn. But yeah, so the minimum I needed to do was release the book.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing a documentary film as well, that is basically kind of the book in an abbreviated form. And then we're gonna, well, when the money's in place, we're gonna do either a TV series or a feature film based on it.
Okay, well, that's so great that your mission is complete and you can just, whatever you do right now as a bonus. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing everything that you've been through and your experiences. And it is definitely palatable. I'm sure the audience can feel it that you are, okay, how do I say this too? that you are balanced, complete, that you're doing this out of love, that that this is just it's just good. I guess that's all I'm going to say, that it's really good. So thank you for sharing your goodness with us
Oh,
today. I'm
thank
so
you. You're so
appreciative.
kind.
And y'all know I love to have guests that cover all parts of the spectrum, because this awakening isn't just this person who channels, it's this person who had an experience with the secret space program. It's so vast and so interesting, all these different perspectives. So y'all stay tuned, keep learning about this world, the new earth, where we're headed. Chris, hang on to me for a second. All right, y'all. See y'all later. Peace out.
Bye. Bye-bye.
As a note, when the show goes live on YouTube, Chris and I will be there to answer questions and comments at least 2 days after. So please engage and be part of my own New Earth community as well. There are so many great things going on right now. Engage.